You solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're giving in the matter before this court to be true, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. Thank you. And will you state your name and will you spell it for the court?
My name is Tracy Kilpatrick. That's T-R-A-C-Y. Kilpatrick, K-I-L-P-A-T-R-I-C-K.
Thank you. And I'm going to take you back to the morning of August 12th, 2017. Where were you and your husband on that day?
I was taking him to the river to kayak.
Okay, and what area were you going to go to?
Mount Tabor under the bridge is where I put him in.
Okay. And have you been to that area before?
Yes.
About what time were you going there?
I'm not for sure at the time. It was morning, like 10ish something maybe.
Okay. Is that here in Newton County? Is that right on the main road, or do you have to drive back to get it there?
You drive.
All right. And what kind of vehicle were you in?
A Frontier. I think it's a 2017 Frontier.
When you arrived, how did you? Well, actually, were you driving or was your husband driving?
My husband was driving.
All right. And how did he enter when he got there to take you out?
He comes in and he pulls up, so he backs the truck in so that I just pull out.
When you exit your vehicle, do you observe anything?
I do.
And what did you see?
We saw a tent when he was pulling up, and then when I got out, I saw a body.
About how far do you think you were?
I'm not good on distance, but maybe 50 yards.
And where was the body located in comparison to where you would put your truck in? Or in comparison also that overpass?
Okay. So we wasn't quite under the overpass, and the body was on the other side of the overpass.
So the body would have been on the north side of the overpass away from you?
Yeah.
Is that correct? Did you tell originally if the body was male or female?
Not at first, but after comment, I was freaked out, so it became obvious, but I didn't get close.
Right. Did your husband approach the body at all, or any closer than you did?
He did go a little further than I did, but not much further. He just kept hollering, seeing if, they were just somebody that may have been drunk or asleep.
Okay. Was there any response at all?
No.
And was anyone else down there besides you and your husband when you first arrived?
No.
Did you notice anything about the coloring of the body when you got there?
Yeah, it was grayish.
You said that there was a tent nearby. Did you notice any other items in that area?
It looked like some clothing and a pair of flip-flops on the outside of the tent.
Is this a public access point to put your kayaks in the river? Is that a yes?
Yes,
Yes
I'm
or no?
sorry.
That's okay. Yes or no? Report.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Thank you. Did anyone else that you knew come up on the scene that day while you were there?
Yes.
And who was that?
Michael Williams.
Okay, and how did y'all know?
Through Jeff does, through kayaking.
Jeff is your husband?
Yes.
Did you notify him to come to that area down there with you?
Jeff did.
Okay. And why were y'all calling?
Jeff said that he kind of knew a little bit about, rescue or medical. So he just said, hey man, he came across the bridge, so we saw him in his truck, and Jeff just called him and said, hey, come back.
Did you also call 911?
I did.
And you were the person that called 911?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So just to reiterate, you didn't ever get near the body or touch the body?
No.
Okay, and did your husband ever touch it?
No.
That's all the questions I have for you right now, Mr. Parnase.
Mr. Patrick, I'm Anthony Carter. I have a few questions for you. This was August 12th of 2017, and you're just going to drop your husband off at Mount Tabor, and he was just going to float down to Porterdale. Is that right? Is this something you've done before?
Oh, yeah.
And you're fairly familiar with the area? So Mount Tabor, to get to that little put-in for your kayak, you go down a little dirt road or just a cutout road, basically, to get down to the river. Is that right? You said, and you said you backed into that area?
Well, we pulled forward. We pulled down in there, but he pulls up and always backs the truck up, so I just got to pull out.
Okay. All right, and so when you tried to do that, that's when you noticed the tent and the body over to the side.
Yeah, I didn't think much about the tent to begin with.
All right. Do you recall what the weather was like that day?
It was, the sun was always warm.
Okay. Do you recall whether it rained the night before? Do you have any
I have
recollection?
no idea.
Okay. Did you recall any particular tire tracks, anything unusual on the road as you pulled off of the main highway?
No.
So your truck, when you pulled in, your truck would have made some tracks. Is that right?
I'm assuming.
Okay. But you're not aware of any other tracks on that in that area?
I didn't go down there looking for tracks.
Okay. And the road is a bit rough. Is that fair to say?
It's not really a paved road, it's just a dirt road.
It's dirt and some gravel. Is that fair? Okay. And at that point, you never saw any other person in the area?
When we went, no.
Right. And there was nobody in the tent, nobody around the tent. You saw no movement at all when you got out of your truck.
Correct.
There were some things, like you said, flip-flops, clothing, maybe some towels around, but that's all you saw at the time.
I saw flip-flops and looked like clothing.
Okay. And then your husband saw his friend Mike go over the bridge in his truck, so he called him and said, come back, we might need somebody who has some rescue ability or CPR ability. And so Mike came down and joined you guys. And he had a younger person with him, is that right?
Yeah, I don't know if it was a family member, I'm not sure.
Okay. And so while you were there, the only 4 civilians that you saw were you, your husband, Mike, and his friend. And when the police got there, they blocked off that road so nobody else could come down. Is that right?
I'm assuming they blocked it off. I know a lot of, cops went down there.
All right. And you were there when the first officer arrived.
Mm-hmm.
So between the time that you saw the tent and the body and the time the officer arrived, you didn't go near the area, you didn't tamper with the area, is that right?
No, I didn't go close to where the body was.
And you didn't see anybody else, either your husband, you, Mike, or his friend. Nobody went very close to the body at all and tampered with anything or touched anything, is that fair?
Nobody touched anything, but Mike walked closer to see if she was alive.
Right. But he didn't touch anything?
No.
Okay. So as far as you know, when the police arrived, the scene was almost exactly in the same condition it was when you got there, except possibly your tire tracks.
Yeah, because there was nobody there that was.
In the other times that you've been there, was that tent there?
No, I've never seen a tent there.
Sometimes people go out maybe and they'll set up a fire or whatever, maybe sit there and drink or do something, whatever they're doing, they'll in that general area, is that right?
I'm assuming I've seen where you could tell a fire had been there, that I guess the night before, but there was never anybody there.
And
Other than, if somebody was putting their kayak in.
so it's a public access, people can just go hang out there, but mostly it's used for people putting their kayaks in to float down the quarter dam. Is that fair?
I don't know what people do out there. I don't know.
To the best of your knowledge, that's what it's used for?
And he doesn't go every Saturday. It was Saturdays when we take him. He doesn't go all the time, but once in a while he likes to go. So that's all I know about it. I don't go down that river.
That's all I have to say.
When you're right.
2 questions, Your Honor. So when you and your husband are just kayaking, that's normally during the day, is that right? Not at night?
Yes, always during, like Saturday morning after breakfast, no hurry, he would want to go over there.
Okay. And did you or your husband also, as a courtesy, call the local kayak place to make sure that they also did not send any other kayakers down?
Yes, he did. He called them because they'll bring a shuttle up there. And he said, don't bring one. There's a problem down here.
I don't have any further questions.
Thank you, Ms. Stennett. She released?
She is.
Thank you. You're free to go. Thank you. Call you next witness.
State calls Deputy Joshua Hicks.
affirm the testimony you'll provide and the matter now pending before this court will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
You go ahead and take a seat. If you can adjust that microphone to one to your right as needed, and please be sure to talk really loud. I'm going to turn the volume down slightly on that one. I'm going to talk loud too because we've been having some interference, so I'm trying to mitigate that. Okay, can you state and spell your name, please?
Deputy Joshua Hicks, that's Joshua-Hicks.
And where are you employed?
Newton County Sheriff's Office,
How long have you worked at the Sheriff's Office?
since January of 2010.
And what have been your different job capacities and duties while you've been working there?
Detention officer, detention corporal, and deputy sheriff.
And were you working for the Sheriff's Office back on August 12th, 2017?
Yes,
And on that day, did you actually respond to the scene there at Mount Tabor Road under the bridge where the Yellow River is?
yes,
And were you working patrol at that time?
yes.
Did you train anyone at that time that you responded on that day?
At that time, I was training Luke Haynes.
And they call that a field training officer.
That's correct.
So was it you and Deputy Haynes that responded to the Mount Tabor area under the bridge?
Yes.
And when you arrived there, what did you see?
I saw a female laying on her stomach with her feet spread apart and with no bottoms on, and she was lifeless. And I saw ants and stuff like that crawling on her.
And about what time of the day was it that you responded?
It was in the morning. I couldn't remember the exact time.
Does 10:30 a.m. sound like the approximate time?
Yes, ma'am.
And what specifically was the call in reference to? What did they call it?
It was either a suspicious person or an unconscious person.
And so once you saw her laying there, what did you do?
Once I saw that she was lifeless, I immediately called for a supervisor. I called for an investigator, crime scene, and I immediately started trying to speak to witnesses and pretty much secured it as a crime scene.
Is that protocol, securing it as a crime scene?
Yes.
And you said you called investigators. Who specifically did you contact?
I called for dispatch to have an investigator en route. I don't really recall who the one that responded. I do know Corporal Walton responded as my supervisor, and I believe it was Mickey Kitchens that responded as the crime scene tech.
And Mickey Kitchens as the crime scene technician?
Yes.
And so I'm correct in saying you essentially secure the scene so that Mickey Kitchens and investigators can come and process that crime scene properly?
Yes.
And who were the witnesses that you spoke with after you did that?
There was about 2 or 3 different people on the scene. I spoke with them. I got witness statements. They filled out witness statements, and then it was turned over to the investigator in crime scene.
Were you wearing a body camera on that day?
Yes.
And was that recording?
Yes, it was.
I'm showing you State's Exhibit 4. Do you recognize this?
Yes, I do.
How do you recognize that?
That's my body cam footage CD.
And you've had a chance to review this footage?
Yes, I have.
And what's contained on this disc, a fair and accurate depiction of what you observed that day when you responded to this incident location?
Yes.
Your Honor, I tender State's Exhibit 4.
Objection?
No objection.
So admitted, you may publish. It's you.
Okay, when you first activate your body camera and it's playing, is there immediately sound that comes on?
No.
So the first few minutes, or I guess the first half a minute of this, there's no sound playing, is that right?
That's correct.
And I, for the record, am playing the second clip on this disc. Okay, so this is where you're pulling up, and is that the bridge right there, Mount Tabor?
Yes, ma'am.
tents, and are those, it's a little hard to like flip-flops that are sitting in front of it, you observed?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Now 157 radio. Go ahead and start getting their information.
That Deputy Haynes that you were just speaking to, you were training?
Yes.
And when you told him, go ahead and get their information, who were you referring to, or what were you referring to?
The witnesses that were on the scene right there.
Is that standard protocol to get the information from everyone, their licenses, things like that?
Yes, anybody on scene.
No. No, 157 radio.
When you go here back to your vehicle and use the radio, what are you doing then?
I'm using the portable to go ahead and notify the investigator, my supervisor. I don't believe I stated it earlier, but if it's somebody that's obviously deceased, we go ahead and notify the coroner also.
Portable radio issues, go ahead and start with crime scene, 99, an investigator and a supervisor. We got a DOA. Be a female. Hey Luke, dude, you're not gonna get out good on your portable. Y'all just rolled up. Right here.
I told the lady, I said, I'm going to go over there.
Kind of not far over that way. I don't remember what I did exactly.
And those were the kayakers that responded and actually called 911 that you're speaking to?
Yes.
Bill Patrick's. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm going to fast forward this a little bit to be able to show the, to show where the road is that leads back to Mount Tabor, that gravel road. So that, it's kind of a long gravel road, you would say.
Yes.
So it's back there.
Probably about a quarter mile.
So it's not a readily apparent location from the actual road itself. Someone would need to sort of know what's back there if they were going back there,
Right.
you would assume. right, Deputy Hicks, I'm also assuming that you've been in law enforcement in this area for a while, that you are familiar with the local area, including that Mount Tabor area, but also the city of Covington and other surrounding places. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to have you go ahead and step down so we can show this map to the jury. And I'm going to seek the tender states exhibit 5. The defense is stipulating to the authenticity of the map created by GIS at this time. So under that.
Correct, Carl?
That's great, Judge.
All right.
May I move to be able to see that?
You mean, you're going to tender at least for purposes of martial law piece? Tender.
Well, I'm tendering it as evidence, Your Honor. The map, yes.
All right, so admit it.
Thank you.
No,
Step back
this
this way and then
All right.
set it up here.
Okay.
The jury can see. Can everyone, that's not too close, see? Okay. All right. Can you point out, I think it's noted on here, but the actual location where the body was found in reference to this map?
Just right in this area right here.
And can you see the Yellow River designated also?
Yes.
Speak up a little louder now.
Yes. Yes, I can.
Okay, so that blue line is the Yellow River as it goes there?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And just at a glance, does this look like it is sort of Covington and then part of Newton County that leads into Walton County?
Yes.
Okay, so down here, does that look like downtown Covington to you?
Yes.
Yeah. All right, and then you see the Newton County, Walton County line? Can you indicate where that is?
You got Newton County, Walton County right here. It goes all the way up past 138 and into that area right there.
And that location, you go ahead, I just have one more question for you actually, so, but you go ahead and take a seat because I'm sure Mr. Carter may have questions for you. That location that Kelly's body was found at, is that here in Newton County?
Yes.
No further questions.
Good morning. I think Carter's have a couple questions for you. You started out in the jail, became a corporal at the jail, then you became a deputy. What's your title now?
Deputy Sheriff.
Still deputy sheriff. So as part of that, you went to certain training, I'm assuming.
Yes.
To become post certified, and then you also have training requirements to continue to be post certified, right?
Yes, sir.
And have you been trained in everything that you need to be to become a deputy and to maintain your certification?
Yes.
And you've been doing this since 2010, so you're up in at least your 9th year?
I'm going on my 10th year.
On your 10th. So you're aware of general protocols, as Bennett said, of how to deal with a situation when you come up on it. Is that fair?
Yes.
So when you came up, you were on patrol that day, and you were dispatched to a unconscious person or suspicious person, and you were the first person to drive up on the scene.
Yes.
Now, you saw there were, it seemed to look like 3 people in your, in the video that you saw as you came up and drove toward the tent. Is that right?
Yes.
And there was a 4th person there also, but that person wasn't shown in the video. Is that fair?
I don't recall.
All right. So when you are on patrol and you come up on a scene like this, you realize it's serious. So you're, like you said, you call a supervisor or let a supervisor know what's going on.
Yes.
You call in for an investigator, right?
Yes.
And you call for crime scene.
Yes.
You call for coroner.
Yes.
And then you secure the scene. You make sure the scene is preserved. Is that fair?
Yes.
So, and that's what you did in this case.
Yes.
Now, your job at that point then would be to listen to what your supervisor tells you or what an investigator asks you to do. Is that right?
Yes.
And once they tell you you're done, your job basically is over for this particular event.
Yes.
So at that point, the investigator, whoever's on call or whoever shows up on the scene or whoever's assigned, they're going to take over the investigation of the case.
Yes.
Now, do you recall which investigator actually arrived on the scene or took over the scene?
I don't recall.
And do you recall, all right. Now, as part of your training as well, a lot of times you will write incident reports. Is that fair?
Yes.
Now, an incident report helps you, that's done kind of contemporaneously or within a short period of time after the event happens to remind you of what you did and how you acted. Is that fair?
Yes.
Now, you did not do an incident report in this particular case. Is that right?
No, I didn't.
Okay, you did. Was that turned in to the sheriff's department? Approved by supervisor?
Yes.
All right, you have a copy of that.
Not on.
Judge, I do not have that as part of my discovery. I was not aware that that was, so I'd like to be able to find that if possible. Would it be possible if your training officer, Luke Haynes, wrote the incident report for you?
That is possible. He would have wrote it for him, and the fact that he was training him.
So you do have it.
I have an incident report from the training officer.
And that's not another one.
That's correct. All right. So earlier you said you weren't exactly sure what time you arrived on the scene. Is that right?
That's right.
Would your incident report contain that information?
Yes.
With looking at Deputy Haynes' incident report, help refresh your memory.
Yes. It says 10:38.
Okay, does that sound about fair?
Yes.
All right. Does that incident report also help refresh your memory as to which investigator came to the scene?
Shows a Captain Crone on the crime scene log.
He's a supervisor in the investigative division. Is that right?
Yes.
And so if he didn't take over the case, he would be one to assign it to someone. Is that fair?
Yes.
Now, at the time that you arrived on the scene, again, we saw the 3 people in video, and there was a 4th person in the general area. Or do you recall? Do you recall whether there was a 4th person, or do you not remember?
I don't recall.
Okay. We saw those 3 people. We saw 2 trucks. One of them had a green kayak on the back of it. Is that right?
Yes.
And the other was just a regular truck, kind of pickup truck, modified. To some extent. Is that right?
Yes.
Those were the only 2 vehicles you saw there at the scene at the time, right?
Yes.
And those were pulled up. So if you're looking at the river, they were pulled up to the left of where you'd be standing and over away from the crime scene. Is that right?
Yes, they were off to the left.
And you pulled your vehicle to the right a bit, and maybe about 20, 30 feet from the tent.
Yes.
On the right. Yeah. That's right.
Yes.
When you walked up to the scene, we could see that there were some tracks, kind of tire tracks leading up to that tent. Do you recall that?
No, I don't recall that.
There were also markings there by the tent and in that general area that appeared to be some type of track or some type of where the ground had been disturbed. Do you recall that?
No.
Do you have those out? can move to a couple more questions from Mr. Hall's getting ready.
Please.
So, in securing a crime scene, you're trying to make sure that nothing was tampered with. Is that correct?
Yes.
Now, you heard, speaking with the witnesses, they said they never went past the tent, that they got as close as getting toward the tent, but they never went past the tent. Is that right?
That's right.
And you never saw any other person in the area, and nobody came up to you and said, hey, this is my tent, what's going on, anything like that while you were there?
Nobody did that.
And you were the first person to walk from the tent toward the body.
Yes.
And the first time you walked over, you walked a little bit toward the right, and you saw the body, and then you walked back. Correct?
Yes.
And then the second time you walked up, you went a little bit more toward the middle, on the other side of the tent, toward the middle.
Yes.
So you would have been, your footprints would have been the only prints that were on the scene at that time, other than any other officers. Is that fair? In other words, you were the first person to walk in that area between the tent and the body, and there wouldn't be any reason for anybody else's footprints to be there except for yours at that time. Is that fair?
As far as any other officers go, mine should have been the only one at that time.
And if the witnesses were being truthful, their footprints shouldn't have been between the tent and the body either.
Correct.
Regarding the tire tracks, now you pulled into the right, the other cars appeared to be on the left. So at the time that you arrived, there should not have been any other tire tracks other than yours and the two people in that car from the time they got there until the time that you left. Would that be fair?
Well, it depends on if they were there prior to them getting there.
Right. Do you have any information as to where they drove? Did you talk to them about where they drove and whose tire tracks were whose?
They said that they were on the left. I didn't get any further than that outside of the fact they said they didn't go up on the scene.
Okay. And you went to the right?
Yes.
You drove to the right. And did you notice in your video that there were tire tracks in the middle, heading toward the tent?
I don't recall.
Okay. We'll look at it in a second. Let's take a look. So this is where you've already been to the body, and you went and you made the report asking for an investigator, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. So this is the second time that you looked at the area. And looking down at the ground here, do you see tire tracks in that area? Do you see other indications of marks in that area?
Get the verbal response.
No.
You don't see any tracks, any marks in the area that you just walked?
Hey, Luke, you're not gonna get out good on your portable.
Are there tracks?
Can you back it up a little bit? Yeah, it appears there's something there.
Okay. And that's not your, those aren't your footprints.
Hey, Luke,
You didn't walk in that area.
you're not gonna get out good on your portable.
You didn't walk in that area. And look at the big mark there. That's a tire track, right?
Yeah, it looks like.
Okay.
Looks like it could be.
All right. Did you or anybody else that you know of on the scene preserve those marks those tracks at all as evidence?
I didn't go back onto the tracks.
Did you or anybody that you know of on the scene preserve those tracks and that evidence in this case?
I did not let anybody back onto those tracks.
All right, the question is, did you preserve those? Did you personally, or did you see anybody preserve the tracks or the markings that were near the tent and on the way toward the body at any time? Did you do that, or did anybody else preserve those?
I preserved the crime scene until it was turned over to me, or turned over to an investigator.
Did you or anybody else put any preserve those by plaster casting them, by taking pictures, or anything of that nature?
Not to my knowledge.
All right, thank you.
Anything else, ma'am?
Yes, Judge. You said you called Mickey Kitchens, evidence technician, to respond to that location?
Yes.
And to your knowledge, does he take photographs of everything that's in that area?
Yes, that's what they do when they work crime scene.
Okay, so you very well could have taken photographs of the tire tracks, is that
Yes,
right?
we are. That calls for speculation.
I know more than the questions that have been asked, counsel. He knows, he knows. Judge, he can tell me he doesn't.
Does Mickey Kitchens, in your experience working with him, typically take pictures of the crime scenes, including tracks of that nature?
Yes.
All right. And also this area that we've seen on the body cam and talked about, this is a public area, correct?
Yes.
Maybe down a gravel road, but it's one that the public in general has access to. Is that right?
Yes.
All right, and then am I correct in saying, based on any training that you've had as a law enforcement officer, you cannot tell the date of tire tracks, whether there's been 1 hour?
Leading question. As an underwriter.
Rephrase.
Based on your training, is it possible to tell the date or the exact time or how old a tire track would be?
No.
All right, I don't have any more questions.
Anything else? Thank you. You step down. You released?
Yes, Your Honor.
Objection. Calling these witnesses. Thank you.
State Post Gayla Atkins.
Ms. Atkins, next to me. Come on, man.
Ms. Atkins, if you need to scoot up or close to the microphones, you can do that and adjust yourself. Okay? All right, will you raise your right hand for me, please? Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give in a matter before this court to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? And will you state your name and spell it for the court reporter? Speak up just a little bit.
Ms. Atkins, and the other one. The other one.
Try the other one.
Yeah.
G-A-Y-L-A.
And spell Atkins.
A-T-K-I-N-S.
Thank you. And did you know Kelly Marshall?
Yes, ma'am.
How did you know her?
On Dover.
Where did Kelly grow up?
Here in Newton County.
Did she go to school here in Newton County?
Yes, ma'am.
And can you describe a little bit about Kelly's personality? What was she like?
She was 11. Sweet. She was a people person.
She was a people person, so outgoing.
Mm-hmm.
Where were you living when Kelly passed away?
Burnsville.
Did you know her husband, Thomas Marshall?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, about how long had you known him?
17 years. Kelly was 15.
When they met? Were Kelly and Thomas separated at the time that she died?
He was incarcerated.
All right. And was there, to your knowledge, or can you describe basically what their relationship was like?
It was good most of the time, regardless of the situation. They were like best friends.
They had children together?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. How many children did they have?
2.
Okay, what are their names?
Jayla and Trayla.
Did they co-parent their children? Did they both try to parent them?
Yes, ma'am.
And who was Kelly living with at the time that she died?
With her nan and her father.
And where was that?
Mount Tabor Road.
Here in Newton County?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you know the defendant, James Hill?
No, met him once, maybe twice. That's it. Never heard of him.
Not somebody that grew up around her?
No.
Was there a time that Kelly and Mr. Hill came up to the Greensboro area to visit you?
Yes, ma'am, there was.
All right, and were you the only one there, or who all was there?
Me and Kelly, my youngest daughter, which is Lindsay Hill, and the kids.
Anybody?
There's Kelly's 2 children and Lindsay's 2 children.
Okay. And about how long before her death do you think this was that they came to visit?
Wait 2 weeks.
A couple weeks before.
Mm.
What happened on that day?
They proceeded to break out arguing. It got worse, it didn't get better. Me and Lindsay proceeded to step in between them. In the process, he swung at Kelly, knocked her across the kitchen. In the midst of him swinging on Kelly, me and Lindsay standing in between them, I got hit.
Where did you get hit?
When he reached around me, he did like this and it caught me right beside of the head. Lindsay ended up, her knees stand up from where he pretty much had Kelly by her head, and Lindsay was trying to get her away from him. I guess he kept pulling Kelly. I'm not real sure after that point.
Do you know what they were arguing about?
I'm not. I can't say specifically, but if I'm not mistaken, it was probably about Kelly's husband.
Did you observe any marks on Kelly at all after that incident?
Yeah, she had red marks. And I did believe the next morning there might have been a slight knots where his fist had maybe hit her.
Like not like a bruise, but like a
Yeah,
raised
like a
area.
knot, yeah.
Did they leave after this, or kind of how did this end?
No, my youngest daughter told him to get out. That's the first time she had met him. Showed him to get out. He called his Aunt Donna to come get him. The car was left there. Kelly stayed there. I guess his Aunt Donna proceeded to come get him. I had a seizure
Shortly thereafter?
after that, yes.
You said that Kelly stayed there. Did she stay the night there?
Yes.
You're all Did Kelly have any tattoos on her?
Yes.
And the one that was on her back, what was that originally?
It said Thomas Marshall with the bunny in the middle of her back, her lower back.
A bunny? Like
Mhm.
Okay. Did that ever change?
It wasn't supposed to.
What was it supposed to be?
It was supposed to be a crown around Thomas Marshall and the bunny, but it was changed
How was it changed?
because he put the tattoo on her.
What was it changed to?
I'm not sure what it was changed to. I didn't look long enough to see, but I looked long enough to see that it was covered up and it was not supposed to be covered up.
How were you notified of Kelly's death?
Her father.
Were there any items or things that she wore consistently that you didn't get back? What were those?
It was the chain she wore around her neck. That's in every picture that you can see of Kelly. It's there. And it wasn't there apparently when they found her because I had the stuff from the funeral home and that's not in there.
So a chain, so a type of necklace that was can you describe what it looked like?
I don't know what they would call it. It's somewhat a common looking chain, but Kelly's was bigger than usual than a girl would usually wear. It was very noticeable, like I said, in all pictures.
More like a men's chain?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Did you know her to ever take those off?
No.
Did she have any other jewelry missing?
Out of her room. She always kept her wedding rings in her drawer, all the way to the right corner in the back. When I went to Kelly's room, that's the first place I went because Charlotte was always supposed to receive those wedding rings.
Jayla was?
Her daughter. And like I said, that's the first I went and went up in the dresser to figure out, and there wasn't there. But there was a few things that wasn't in her room. to me, I thought a lot of things were missing, but
You're not sure?
that's really not important now.
Did you ever see, after that incident at the house in Greensboro, did you ever have any more contact with Mr. Hill, any more visits or anything like that?
No, ma'am.
That's all the questions I have for you now, but Mr. Parker.
I was asking a few questions for you. In the 6 months or so that Kelly was dating James Hill, you only saw him that one time, is that fair?
No, I didn't say I only seen him one time. I seen him maybe 3 occasions.
Earlier, you didn't say the only time you met him in person was in Greensboro. You didn't say that?
I met him briefly for 5 minutes at a gas station when he first had apparently gotten out of prison or whatever, I don't know. But I met him briefly for 5 minutes. I wasn't around him any amount of time.
All right. I actually need to do a quick break. Could I take that issue outside the president?
Come on, counsel. Come on. May continue.
All right, ma'am. So you said you saw Mr. Hill a couple of times. One time was 5 minutes at a gas station. What was the other time?
At my mom's sister's house on 7 Road.
How long did you see him at that time?
For a few good minutes, long enough for him to jump on somebody else that was there viciously on the porch. He might have been there 30 minutes, that was it.
No, I don't need to take a matter outside the president.
Let's just give me a moment, please. Step out. Step out. Please don't talk like that. We'll read more. Don't get too comfortable. Thank you. Make a decision here.
No, for the record, we've had 2 prior conferences. The first time, Amber Land mentioned that Mr. Hill had a knife, and that they didn't know that he had a knife when he was in an altercation with her brother until he dropped it. Mr. Hill actually pled guilty to aggravated assault against her brother.
Counsel, we run a Covington.
Right.
The record is clear on that.
That's incident number 1, where she brought that up against the court's wishes without a floor or being noticed. Number 2, Ms. Atkins, after being told not to, said that the first time she saw Mr. Hill, I didn't ask a time. I said, how much time did you spend with him? And she goes, oh, it must have been just a little bit after he got out of prison. That's strike number 2, because the jury now knows that he's been in prison, and there's no reason that they needed to. I filed a motion in limine, which the state conceded that we would not bring up the fact that he's been in prison as character. Number 3, I asked, how long did you see him? The question was, how long did you see him? And she said, well, it was no more than 30 minutes, but he beat the crap out of somebody, he violently beat somebody up. Judge, that's another 404B, another character issue. That's the 3rd one, and we've only been doing this for half a day. We've already got 3 violations in my motion in limine regarding his character, regarding his incarceration, and it's got to stop, or we are really on the edge of being in trouble of having to declare a mistrial.
Ladies.
Judge, I think we've already covered the intrinsic nature of the incident with Amber Land and what her brother's response was at that time. The defense is very aware of the fact that that was all over the discovery, that her brother and him fought after this happened, and that it's not a separate incident. It's intrinsic to the fact that he just strangled her and the brother is responding, and that occurred. The jury's not going to know any more than that's just a fact of what happened. There's not going to be a certified conviction of another aggravated assault included with the other one. So that's just intrinsic. That's just what that is. In terms of the prison comment, it was elicited because Mr. Carter didn't just ask a question and then it come out. He did say, didn't you just say that you never met him before? So you're saying you didn't just say you never met him. And, he's questioning her, so she's trying to recall when it was. And that's why that comment came out. But I also think it wasn't, nobody jumped up and down. The jury wasn't aware of the fact that that was some horrible misstep. The fact that the defendant does have a criminal history is known, so I don't think that that's something that the jury is alerted to, that everyone made a huge deal of. In terms of this 3rd comment, Mr. Carter makes it sound as if, she said he violently assaulted somebody right in front of me. She said he jumped on somebody on the porch. So I think that that's blowing a little bit out of proportion what was actually said by the witness, which is jumped on somebody, is not a violent assault he committed in front of that. So I don't think I don't think any of these warrants a mistrial, certainly, and I don't think the jury's alerted, and I don't think they are prejudiced in a way that warrants a mistrial at this time at all. And we have instructed before our witnesses not to reference that anybody is in prison or that he's been in jail or things like that before, or to talk about things that have occurred that aren't relevant to this. I know we have all of our witnesses, we're doing that again now to double check, or to reinforce that idea, but again, I don't think that mistrial is warranted at all.
Judge, it's not too much trouble. I would ask the court reporter could find that comment from a couple of minutes ago and say what the specific statement was that she made.
I heard it, counsel. What was said was pretty much what the state repeated for doing so. He jumped on. There was a altercation or something in her presence. Listen, the record will speak for itself. All right, it will speak for itself. The concern that the defense is raising is a valid one. I need the state to be sure you emphasize to your witnesses and to all witnesses, we don't want to have to create situations in here that we have to do this again. So you need that. If you've been told that there are certain things that can't be added, don't play smart and seek to add anything additional. Answer the questions that you're asked, and we'll do this and be able to move forward for doing so. So I don't have a problem with stopping and making sure that we re-emphasize the admonition, Mr. Carter. I again commend you that you didn't jump up and down and bring great attention to the comment. I think it was just something in passing and moved on. They took the first one as well for doing so. I think we're good to go, and we aren't going to have any other problem with this and any other witnesses. And if anybody needs me to say that to them, you can bring them all in at lunchtime, and I'll be sure they get the understanding of the fact that I need them to be sure that they follow the instructions that they've been given about things that cannot be said, and they don't have the discretion to add to it for doing so. All right, with that, anything else for you, Ray?
No, sir, Your Honor, but I would ask the court to consider, we've talked about not allowing Ms. Marshall's drug addiction to come into evidence, but the state in opening and in speaking with her mother, asked her what type of a person she was. And she said she was sweet, and she said that she was kind of person that always told the truth, or that she said exactly what she meant. And so I think that based on that, we can get into the fact that she was addicted to pills and that those pills affected her personality and made her not a sweet person, but a person that was easy to get along with.
Honestly, there's no, I don't think there's any evidence in discovery as far as her actual past drug addiction. What we had asked in our motion only was her past long-ago drug addiction. We were keeping in is what was going on during the present time. In the defendant's interview, and we haven't redacted that part, he talks about the fact that she's had pills and he was concerned about the amount of pills. That's why he thought that she
So in other words, it's already coming in.
So that part's already coming in, but we're talking about from years past or anything like that. That's what we asked our motion limiting not to talk about. What's going on specifically, we both agreed on, that we talked about the fact that she drank that day.
Mr. Carter, I don't see the reason why you can't ask her anything you want to. I heard the comment as well. Ask her about any usage. All right, I think that's proper cross. Ladies? No? All right, I think you proper cross to make that inquiry. I heard that too. She called us sweet. Okay? So in the event, you can ask, I think, make some general inquiry relates to that. Given it's already coming in, it won't be new, given as it relates to that. All right? Anything else? All right, bring them back. Thank you.
Outside the bathroom again.
My eyes away.
Be seated, and you may continue.
Thank you. I apologize for that. Ms. Atkins, the incident that you testified to when you were at your home in Greensboro, you said that Mr. Hill and Ms. Marshall got into an argument, that you and Lindsay?
Yes, sir.
Lindsay, is that also your daughter?
My youngest daughter, yes,
And
sir.
that is Kelly's sister?
Yes, sir.
All right. The three of you ended up getting into a scuffle. Is that right? You didn't say that?
I don't recall no three, nothing. It was him and her that got into it, and me and my daughter tried to work it. We was advising them, trying to get them away from each other.
When you were trying to get away from each other, then you tried to lay hands on them to get them apart? Is that
I don't remember. I don't recall. I mean, it all happened so fast. I just know that we were trying to get him separated.
You said the end result was that Lindsay got, her knee got scraped, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
And that Kelly had a knot on her head, is that right?
Yes, sir.
You recall that James Hill ended up with a bloody face.
I don't recall saying that.
I didn't actually say that. Do you recall that happened?
I don't recall because, like I said, I had a seizure, and I don't remember much after Kelly got hit. I don't remember that.
Okay, is it fair to say that that seizure affected your ability to remember this incident?
Up until that, I remember what happened. I remember what I was doing when I had gotten, in the way of the...
Okay. And do you recall, during that, the thing that you remember, do you recall that Mr. Hill had scratches on his face that were bleeding as a result of this incident?
Maybe, I don't know.
Now, you said earlier that Kelly was a sweet girl. She, at some point, started using prescription medication, didn't she?
I know that she had been put on medication.
And that prescription medication made her not as sweet as she used to be. Isn't that not fair?
I can't answer that. I don't recall any situation of it changing her that way.
Were you aware that she was addicted to prescription medication?
I guess not.
That's all I have.
Read the right there, eh?
No, Your Honor.
All right, ma'am, you may step outside. Thank you. She released, or you want to remain on call now?
I'm not releasing her.
Okay.
All right. You released, which means she may stay in the courtroom.
Yes, sir.
All right, you may. Thank you. All right, call your suit.
The state calls Lindsay Buell. Raise your right hand for me, please. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give the matter before this court to give the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you. Will you just state your name and will you spell your name for the court reporter?
Lindsay Buell, L-I-N-D-S-E-Y-H-E-W-E-L-L.
Thank you. Did you know Kelly Marshall?
Yes,
How did you know her?
my sister.
Are you older or younger?
I'm younger.
You're the younger. And where were you living? What area when she passed away?
Greensboro.
And did you know the defendant, James Hill?
I met him twice.
You didn't know him as a child, from childhood or anything like that? Was there a time that Kelly and James came to visit you and your mom in the Greensboro area?
Yes.
All right, and about how long do you think, give or take, was it before she died?
I would say maybe 3 months.
3 weeks ago. So several, just a few weeks before she died.
Yes.
Okay. Who was?
Slide this way toward us right here. The voice is trailing.
Yes.
I want to make sure that they can hear you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Who was all at the house that day?
It was my mother, me, our kids, which is Lara, Savannah, my daughters, and Jalen, Traylon, and James.
And can you tell us what happened that day?
Well, they came up and had a few drinks, and just that was my second time meeting him to hang out, and they broke out into a fight.
Do you have any idea what the argument was about?
I do not. I would like to say maybe about Thomas Marshall.
But you're not positive?
No.
Okay. At some point did the argument become, was it verbal only to start with?
I'm pretty sure, yes, it was verbal to start with.
Did it become physical?
It did.
All right, and what did you observe about that?
I observed that,
What did you know about the physical altercation? What did you see happening between them?
He grabbed her. I don't remember exactly everything, but he did grab her, and I had to get in between them and break them apart. He had her wrapped up by the hair.
Were they standing or was?
They were standing.
They were standing.
Yes, ma'am.
So you got in between them at some point. All right. At some point, did he release her or kind of what happened?
No, I actually had to snatch her hair out of his hand and get him between them and break them apart. I actually got a carpet burn on my knee from it.
Okay. And
And I got drug in the middle of it.
how did you get the carpet burn on your knee? With them standing there, just trying to figure what was happening.
I'm not really, I guess when I broke them apart, I was drug-like.
Okay. All right. Was your mother there as well?
Yes,
Like, was she trying to help break this apart?
she was. She actually got hit upside the head and messed up as well.
Okay, so you were both kind of in there trying to pull
Yes,
it apart.
yes, it happened very quickly. I didn't even realize they were in the back of the apartment when we were in like the living room. It happened very quickly, but
So they were in the back. Did you hear it first before you saw it?
yes.
And did you see the defendant again after this at all? Did Kelly stay with you?
You mean my sister?
No, I mean the defendant. You didn't see him again after this
No.
incident? Okay. And then your sister, where did she stay that evening?
She stayed at my apartment, and her friend Casey came together.
Later on?
Yes.
All right. Did she have any type of injuries on her at that time?
She did.
Can you recall what those were?
She had knots on her head, bruises on her elbows, her knees.
All right. That's all the questions that I have for you.
On the side. Carter, you're with me?
Thomas Hill. Anthony Garner, South
Hi.
So, Kelly Marshall was your sister.
Yes.
Were you guys close?
Yes, we were.
Okay.
I mean, I live further away, so we weren't as close as I would like to have, but yes.
And you met Mr. Hill twice. The first time you met him, how long do you think you were with him?
It was very, very quickly, actually. I was in Covington, my sister pulled up, met me, and hey, how are you? And that was it.
Okay. And then the second time was when they went to visit with your family at Greensboro.
Yes.
And prior to the argument that they had, did they appear to be getting along?
Yes.
And the argument broke out, and you said it happened very quickly, is that right?
Well, suddenly.
Mhm.
It actually, they've been fighting, drug out.
Okay.
It was very sudden,
It came on
yes.
suddenly. And you tried to get in the middle, and you ended up with a scrape on your
Yes.
knees. Your mom, she didn't have physical injuries, but she may have gotten pushed
Yes.
or hit in the head, is that right? And then Kelly had a knot on her head, and then some scrapes,
There were bruises.
some bruises on her elbow and her knees.
Yeah, I want to say her legs, her elbows. I mean,
Do you remember that Mr. Hill ended up with a bloody face from scratches?
yes, he did.
And you recall that he had to wash those off.
Mhm.
Right. And then he left the
Yes, because
house.
that's when he had to leave and his
Right.
aunt came in.
Right. And when you asked him to leave or told him to leave, he left. And his aunt picked him up, and he let Kelly drive his car back.
No. Kelly did not drive his car back.
She was left with his car. Is that right?
His car was left there.
Right. His car was left
Right.
there, and he left and went back to where his aunt lived.
Yes.
And this, the timing, that would be about a couple of weeks before she died. Is that fair?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Redirect, Kenny.
No, Your Honor.
You may step down now. She released?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. She released, now maybe she may stay in. Call you next with him.
State calls Donna Herndon.
Come on, let's run next to me now. All the way up.
Raise your right hand. Do you swear affirm the testimony you'll provide and the matter not pending before this court will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
You can lower your hand. And then be sure that microphone that's to your right there, that's the one that is picking everything up so we can hear you. Yeah, so be sure that you talk loud into that microphone so we can hear everything you're saying. Can you state and spell your name, please?
Donna Herndon, DONNAHERNDON.
And where do you live now? What area? You know, your address, what area do you live?
It's Covington, Walton County.
Okay. There, sort of the line of Walton County, New
Close
County?
to Jersey.
Close to Jersey. And is that the same place, same house you lived in 2017?
Yes.
And in 2017, specifically sort of the first half of that year into August of 2017, who lived at that house with you?
My nephew, James Hill.
Okay, did anyone else live there?
No, as I recall, I've had a lot of people stay. My sister from Arizona and so forth stayed a few weeks, but no.
Okay, and did your son, is his name Michael?
Yes.
Did he live with you sometimes too?
Yes.
Do you recall if he was living with you around that time or not?
I do not. He had his house for years and years, and when the landlord sold it, he did stay with me for a short time, but I couldn't tell you exactly when.
So obviously you know that Bennett lived with you. What is y'all's relationship?
He is my nephew. I'm his aunt on his father's side.
All right, and were there times throughout his life growing up and everything that you raised him actually? You had custody of him and took care of him?
Yes. Guess he was probably around 12, 13, something like that.
All right, and did you have a chance to meet Kelly Marshall?
Yes.
You were dating? And when do you estimate you first met her?
Well, I would say probably first quarter of August, somewhere around there.
In August of 2007?
I think. I can't tell you exactly, I'm not sure.
If you were texting her daughter Jayla back in July.
Then I knew her in July.
Okay. So if they dated for about 6 months, did you know her for most of that time period?
Yes.
Okay. And when she would come to your house, especially in the beginning of their relationship, is that right?
Yes.
All right. And was there ever a time when she's at your house, James at your house, that you saw them fight?
Fight? No. Arguing?
Well, tell me about the arguing.
They woke me up one night, blonde racket in the kitchen. I came in and Kelly had scratched his face and she was trying to claw his eyes out. He picked her up and kind of straddled and took off running around the house trying to calm her down, but other than that,
Was that
just
a
arguing.
funny situation?
No.
No. Okay. So it seemed serious, the fighting.
Yes.
So,
Well,
when
he
you
picked her up to stop her from scratching him and was trying to calm her down, running around the house
picked her
outside.
up and ran around the house with her.
Mm-hmm.
And when you say picked her up, can you describe what you mean by that? How did you pick her up?
From her waist and straddled him so she couldn't keep clawing his face.
Do you recall having an interview talking to law enforcement in this case right after Kelly died, just maybe a few days?
Yes, I actually,
Do you remember sitting down with an investigator?
we called them
You
because,
can let me finish my question, then you answer. So we're not talking over each other. It's really hard for her to take most of that down. Okay. Do you recall sitting down with investigators in the sheriff's office?
vaguely, but yes,
Okay. And do you recall indicating at that time when they fought that the defendant had snatched her up?
yes.
Okay. Do you recall using the word snatched?
Well, to me, it's the same thing, picking her up, yes.
Picking her up to hold her is the same thing as snatching her up?
Well, yes, it's a phrase, but it's a country phrase, I guess.
All right. So then if someone grabbed someone by the arm, grabbed them by the hair, what would you call that?
That'd be different. If I picked that paper up really fast, I'd call it snatching it up.
Okay. So if you picked it up fast, you would. So
Right.
if he grabbed her, picked her up fast, you'd call that snatching.
From the waist to straddle her. That's not grabbing her arms, he picked her up
Right.
to straddle him so that she couldn't get to his face.
Just asking if you recall using the word snatch.
Yes, use that quite often.
And did Kelly, did you ever see bruises or anything like that on Kelly?
2 years ago, I don't know to testify to, no.
So, no, you didn't, or no, you don't recall what?
No, I don't recall.
Don't recall. And do you ever recall her talking about abuse at all?
I recall her saying that they had gotten in a fight.
But not anything about physical violence?
No.
And you know Jayla, you know Kelly's children, correct?
Yes.
Right? Jayla and Traylon?
Yes.
Okay. And would they come stay at your house sometimes?
Quite often,
All right. And did they actually call you Aunt Donna?
they did, still do.
Do you recall an incident when Jayla would be at your house and any kind of physical violence argument broke out between the defendant and Kelly Murray?
There were a time that the bickering would start. The last time Jayla was pretty upset with her mom that she was trying to start an argument.
Okay, so you're saying no physical violence
No.
happened while Jayla was there?
Not while I was there, no.
And you still talk to Jayla? I mean, obviously before this happened, but then after you were communicating with Jayla, correct?
Before, oh yes.
Okay. And, are you aware of a time, or do you recall a time where Kelly's phone was broken by the defendant, or got broken? And she was inquiring about getting another phone back, or getting the serial numbers or something off the broken phone.
I recall Kelly asking me to get serial numbers or the model number, something off of her phone. She had broken it, or it was broken. She was trying to get a new phone and needed to transfer it, but I couldn't. She thought it was there and I couldn't find it.
So, okay, you don't know how the phone was broken?
No,
Do you know if that happened during one of their fights?
no,
No, you don't know.
I do not know.
All right, and you do recall indicating that previously they were toxic for each other, correct?
Yes.
All right, so that was Kelly and the defendant, both of their behaviors.
They just, they loved one another, but there was always just bickering.
I'm going to draw your attention back to the incident time this happened, August 11th, around that time, 2017. Do you recall the last time that you saw the defendant on that day?
Yes,
When was that?
that night. He came in from Jack's Creek. It's in Bethlehem, or near Bethlehem, but that's where he usually went on weekends. It was pretty hot summertime.
Okay, so you recall that day you went to Jack's Creek and you saw him that night?
He came
We
in
got that.
to take a shower, he ate, and said he was leaving to go to Atlanta.
What time was it that he came back and took a shower and that kind of stuff?
Approximate, hard to say. I know it was after dark, so probably 9, 10, 10:30.
And do you know what time it was he actually left to go to Atlanta?
Shortly after. He didn't stay long.
What did he bring with him to Atlanta?
Oh, I don't know.
Was anyone with him when he came home?
No.
What kind of car was he driving at that time?
He had I believe it's a Cutlass, older model white Cutlass.
And when did he get that car?
I would say soon before that. I can't testify exactly.
And soon before, like he had purchased it soon before? Or
I bought it for him.
You bought it for him. And soon before meaning a month or meaning a year?
I don't remember. No, it wouldn't have been. Well, I don't know. I can't tell you exactly.
And on the night, around this day, August 11th, did you give the defendant a lot of money, like significant amount of cash?
That morning, yes, I had a large deposit I needed him to make for me.
How much money was it?
It was over $3,000, around $3,600, I guess.
Was any of that actually ever deposited into your account?
No.
You were aware of how much money the law enforcement recovered from the vehicle or from his person when he was ultimately arrested?
I think you told me 400 or so, or someone had mentioned 6, so I'm not sure.
All right, but you don't know where any of the difference of that cash would have gone, essentially?
No, for sure, no. I would speculate.
Well, don't
Considering
speculate.
where he
No.
was, so yes.
Well, okay, I guess. So did he tell you where he was going? He was going to Atlanta, or did you
He just told me he was going to Atlanta. And that was it.
Okay, he didn't say where he was going.
No, but Jim liked the city.
And were you upset with him at all, fussing with him that night?
I first corrected him because I knew he had been drinking. I didn't want him driving to Atlanta drinking, so he did eat and said he was fine.
All right, and drinking in general, was it just that he'd be driving, or was that didn't want him drinking at all, I just wasn't him.
Well, Jim was like my son to me. I didn't want him drinking at all. I don't want
Was that one of
my
the things?
30-year-old niece drinking.
Was that one of the things you thought negatively affected his personality, though, in terms of his relationships?
No, I wouldn't say that. As far as relationships, but Jim he had a good job, worked a lot of hours, and I didn't think drinking was a good thing for him. He was trying to better himself.
Do you recall telling the police that that's one of the things you believe was toxic for him, or for him and Kelly, was the drinking? His drinking.
I don't recall, but if that's what's in my statement, then I guess that's what it said.
Would it refresh your memory to look at your statement?
I can.
Well, I'm not asking if that would refresh your memory in terms of.
But yes, it would make sense. Kelly didn't want him drinking. And certainly I didn't want him drinking.
Okay, so you are, I guess you are agreeing then that the drinking was could be a problem for him, could lead to issues, make him, quote, toxic sometimes.
Toxic as in not getting along.
Okay, so not able to get along with people, that would cause him to have
With
issues
her.
communicating with others. All right, or her. All right, and we're gonna go back to this time frame that he's at your house that Friday night before he leaves to go to Atlanta. How long was he actually there for, do you say?
I don't know, I was watching TV, so hour or two.
An hour or two? Okay, and you say it was dark outside. About what time?
Like I said, I would say between 9 and 10:30. I don't know.
9 or 10:30 at night?
Yes,
Okay,
it was evening.
it was evening time. All right, do you recall telling me last week in my office when we met that you really couldn't estimate the time, you didn't know if it was dark or not outside?
Yes, I remember that conversation.
Okay, but today you are sure that it was dark outside and later, 9 or 10 at night? Okay.
It takes as soon as I left your office, I could answer 2 or 3 more of those questions, but it takes a little minute for me to think on.
Okay, and then this time that you've been thinking on it, have you been communicating on the phone at all with any other witnesses or the defendant?
Oh, I talked to Jim
Okay.
on a regular basis, but nothing about this trial.
Okay. You guys were talking on the phone though, once, you left my office and knew what questions would be asked.
I spoke to him vaguely about our conversation, but he didn't want to talk about it, and we ended up talking about a TV show that we're both catching up on.
Do you know why, if he was at your house at 9:30, it's 9:30 at night, there would be a message that he texted at 8:44 p.m. It says, "I'm outside your window," to Kelly Marshall?
No.
And that he would then again text her 10 minutes later, "Are you opening the window?" or things like that, or "I'm still here." You don't know why that would be there if he was actually at your house that night. Do you know an individual named Milton?
I know a lot of Milton.
Okay, do you know Milton that's friends with the defendant?
He went to school with Milton, yes.
Okay.
A Milton, 2 of them actually.
All right, so James Hill grew up with a Milton, went to school
Yes.
with their friends. All right, and does that Milton, or did he, when they were friends, growing up, live in Winsong neighborhood?
No, I don't think so.
But he was a friend of his that he grew up with in social circle.
Yes,
All right, and,
there's 2. But yes.
okay, well, 2 Miltons, but he knows Miltons. Did the defendant borrow your boat ever to go to any river or lake or bodies of water?
One time, the lake is about 1.5 miles from my house.
What lake is it?
Lake Warner.
What kind of boat is it that you borrowed?
It's a little John boat. Trolling motor, that's all that they can fish with in that long.
And that happened just one time?
Yes, he broke the seat and it couldn't go back to the water. It was my father's boat, and the seat was mounted with a piece of plywood.
Are you aware the defendant was supposed to go to a family function with his sister that next day, Saturday evening at 6 p.m. or so?
Yes.
Are you aware that he did not make it there, did not go to that function?
I wasn't there, but I would assume not.
And you used to live in the Winsong neighborhood yourself, correct?
Yes.
Right. And when you lived in Winsong, did the defendant live with you in Winsong for part of
Yes.
that time? And how long was it that you lived in Winsong?
Again, I'm not real sure. A couple of years, I guess.
A couple of years. What time period were that? What years was that?
I'm really not sure. That would have been, my son was in middle school. He and Jim are 3 years apart, so Jim was either in middle school or late elementary, so it's hard for me to say.
Okay, I think you indicated he was 12 when he came to stay with you?
Yes.
Okay. So,
Well,
by then he's probably in middle school.
he stayed with me off and on throughout other years, but I got custody of him when he was,
When you're in custody of him, were you living in Winsong?
yes.
Okay. So it would have been, he was
Yeah,
older,
okay.
late middle school,
Around
high school.
12.
Was it when he was dating Amber Land?
Yes. Well, they were seeing each other back then.
Right, okay, so they're teenagers, but they're seeing each other, they're dating as teenagers, right?
Right.
And all of that. Okay, so around that time frame, you lived in Winsong. And so are you familiar both with Amber and her mother, Danette?
I was friends with Danny years before the kids were ever born.
And did you live in Winsong in 2010? Yep.
Not sure. I guess.
Okay.
Wait, that would. I moved right around that time.
Where'd you move to?
Temporarily, I moved to Leafstone Apartments in Covington. Danny packed the mail, or Danny packed my house up for me so I could move.
Okay, and I know we've talked about this. You say it's hard for you to remember things sometimes, and dates and times and everything, but you do sort of run a business and everything, right?
I do.
Okay, and successful business,
Yes.
correct? All right, so you have to do invoicing, you messaging people, and all of that.
I
You
do.
manage to run that. Okay, but right now you're saying you cannot remember the years you moved, or remember if you ever saw bruises on Kelly, or if she ever talked to you about, physical violence and things like that?
I answered those questions.
You said yes. You said you don't recall whether or not you ever saw bruises or anything like that. Or you don't recall exactly when you moved to different houses, right?
I don't recall exactly what year, no. I would say if it's around that year, that means my son was about 20. And
And you don't recall specifically sort of what times, even generally, Jim would have left or come or gone on your house on that Friday night, the 11th.
yes, it would have been that evening.
Okay, so now you are sure that it's 9:30 or later at night that he was there?
Yes,
Okay. But you agree you did not remember that when we met last week?
correct.
And so you were saying that you and Danny, Jeanette, police were friends at one time?
Yes,
Right.
right.
And are you aware of an incident that occurred between Amber Land and the defendant James Hill?
I heard of that incident, yes.
You heard of it, okay. Are you aware that he pled guilty to aggravated assault against her?
Yes,
Was he living with you at the time that occurred?
I do not believe so.
And do you recall speaking with Danette's police about that? And what happened with Amber?
No, I remember the conversating with Danny that thought he would have probation, and that was well after the time of that incident that Danny was.
Do you remember saying to Danny that you don't believe he meant to do it or anything like that?
Remember saying that?
Yes.
No, but it is very likely.
So you're saying it's likely that you could have discussed that you don't think the defendant meant to or had any ill intent in regards to strangling Amber, but you can't recall whether or not you
Strangling
said it?
Amber, I did not know there was strangling Amber.
Yes, that's what he pled guilty to.
Okay. That's news to me.
Okay.
With objective relevance, I thought maybe she was going somewhere with this, but I mean, we're talking about a similar transaction from 10 years ago. I don't know what his aunt's thoughts on it are and how that's relevant. If she can...
I'll give a little latitude. Move on.
All right, so you do recall having a conversation with Bennett about this incident in general, correct?
I remember her thinking he would have got probation while she was packing my house up to help me move.
All right, I'm asking, did you make statements to her about the defendant's conduct? You don't think he meant to do that or something like that in regards to whatever it is that you thought
It is
occurred?
very possible that was 10 years, over 10 years ago.
And are you aware of how it is, I guess Mr. Hill indicates or says it was he found out about Kelly's death?
I told Jim after Kelly's daughter called me and told me.
Okay, so it's your belief he found out when you told him on the phone, is that right?
Yes.
All right, Your Honor, I'm going to tender State's Exhibit 6, which is a Walton County jail call from right when the defendant was arrested. The defense is stipulating the authenticity of the jail call, so I'm just going to go ahead and play it with this witness.
The condition of admissibility. You may play.
And there are transcripts that we have here.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to give you a transcript of the evidence of what you hear, not what you read. The transcript is only given as an aid. All right, the evidence shows what you hear. Give a 14.
Oh, I thought I did.
Everybody have one?
Yes, sir.
No extras, correct? Don't have any extras. Okay, good. Thank you. All right, play it.
And I think the first couple minutes of this actually includes a sort of intro to jail calls and how they work, where you have to kind of press a button and it tells you they're recorded. I'm going to fast forward through that, and that'll bring us down to about a third of the way down on the second page of the transcript, unless Mr. Crowe has an objection.
All right.
This call will be recorded and subject to monitoring at any time. Please enter your personal ID number followed by the pound 4.
4, 3.
This is a free call from Walton County Jail Communications. Para español presione 2. Yes. To accept this call, press 3. This information. To receive future calls, you can see 729-8355 or u.paytel.com. This call will be recorded and subject to monitoring at any time. You may begin speaking now. Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm fine. Look, now I just out of town for it, but I'm going to see one. Look, I don't know. I went out, I went out bad, but get that from you before.
But I was around it, I don't even know why I'm wearing it. It was just because my head is like, I really, my head is, because it's like, I guess like, I'm not so but I think I got something bad or something. I mean, like, I don't know, I'm just seeing people shit, hearing shit all day, it's crazy. And when I got my arm, yeah, I was looking, I got the back down, right before.
Yeah, I'm sick of having thinking.
Oh, that's fine.
When you get there when she overdosed,
Who?
they think she overdosed, were you with her when she overdosed?
Who?
Good.
Oh, I don't know.
They think
I didn't.
she died.
Huh?
They, yeah,
What?
yeah, overdose,
Oh,
found her on the side of the road.
really? When did you find that out?
Yeah.
When did you find that out?
The kids called me 30 minutes after they found out. Yesterday.
Yeah, crazy.
Yeah. The cops were looking for you to talk to you because you were the last one seen with her. Right. And they found her Saturday morning. And said she overdosed. And the cops were looking for you to question you.
Yeah, no, but no, I'm thinking I can get insurance on the car, and yeah, I'm so stressed because, I went to what? They're leaving with.
You breaking up?
I said when I went to Atlanta, I was fucking relapse and shit, and whatever I did, fucking, had my mom hooked up at my home.
I do.
Hey, don't like
You can die and talk to you.
Let me talk to her. I'm talking to Grandma, but
Hello?
I don't.
How you are?
Yeah, I'm good. I want to get around. I'm around and all because yesterday I put around got some relapse and shit. And I think I got a hold of some bad shit or something, because I've been, my mind, bro, I'll tell you, like I've been seeing shit,
Dude, I seen you when I seen you earlier, I knew.
Yeah, well,
You know, seen you earlier.
like yesterday, like, and the day when they keep losing, like, bro, just bash out. I mean, I'm throwing up the deuces and stuff. Well, I guess afterwards, I also kind of laughed at it. I said, but hey, I liked it. We was respectful about it. I said, that's all. Well, once I cracked, I put my arms out the window. I said, well, that's it. I'm done.
Yeah.
Stupid because really now they gave me a felony leaking because we came all the way from over there by where Milton lives, and I ended up over there by 20.
Yeah.
About 100 miles an hour. But I mean, it was stupid really. I should just pull it over. I wasn't thinking no bro. I mean, close for a while, you know.
I'm just glad you're alright, dude. I mean, I had that one all weekend. I didn't know what was going on. I got people messaging me, my picture and shit on.
I'm good, I love y'all. And you need to bring me some lights so you can't get out of the house, bring me some light.
There are 60 seconds remaining. Yeah, I'll do it. I'll just have to do it.
I need at least bring me 3 white, 2X t-shirts.
He said turn over any money, to her.
Yeah, look, it's in my car. It's in my car. I forgot my damn money. It's in the car. So where the hell my car is?
Alright.
But bring me a box of socks and a t-shirt, please. About 3 of each, if you can. They all like, you know, they don't keep nothing here, so.
Yeah, no, it's fine. Just,
Yep, you don't worry about it. Hey, if I want to make good decisions on the police, that's on me, man. That's on me. I'm a grown
yeah,
man.
I'm just saying I love you.
Yeah, I know.
I'll talk to you then, you know what I'm saying?
No, but it's not good. I love y'all. Y'all be good, man. Yeah, don't let it change off, man. I'm sorry. Y'all be alright.
Alright, I love you.
I love you, bro. Check them off, you alright?
Alright.
Please.
Yeah, I will.
Hey, bye.
Goodbye.
Pass it back to the incoming.
we instructed you to make the transcript as an evidence that the recording is the evidence?
I did that.
You did, okay, all right.
I did. I told them they were to listen to the what they heard, what they read. No problem.
Okay, Ms. Hernandez, so you had heard the defendant talk about that he loved Kelly, right? I mean, he was very much cared for her. Okay, throughout their relationship, that's what he told you, right? Yes, okay. And so it wouldn't surprise you that even in his interview with law enforcement, he refers to her as that's like my wife.
Yes.
Okay. But you would agree, in this particular jail call, when he's supposedly learning of her death for the very first time, I mean, we have about maybe 20 seconds of discussion, and then he's on to talking about whites and we bring up there, man, and relapse, things like that.
Yes.
All right, I don't have anything.
Your witness?
Thank you, Judge. I'm sorry, I just have a few questions for you.
Yes, sir.
You are James Hill's aunt.
I am.
You are his father's sister.
Yes, sir.
So you've known him pretty much since he was born.
I have.
And his mom was Tina Hill,
She was.
and she had some of her own demons. Is that fair?
Yes,
And she was murdered in social circle.
she was.
And James was about 11, 12, something like that.
Sounds right.
She was actually missing for a year before her body was found.
She was.
And somebody was ultimately convicted of killing her.
Yes, sir.
And after that, his father pretty much drank himself to death.
He did.
And so he died a little bit over a year after his mom died. Is that when you got custody of him?
Yes.
Did you try to help him through those issues? Did you go to therapy? Did you do things like that?
Tried, yes. We had a counselor that talked to him when he was in my brother's care. I begged my brother to go ahead and put him in during that time that Tina was missing. But yes, I did, and other than the counselor, it just, unfortunately,
Is this something that affected him? I mean, is that, I know it's
Absolutely.
But when you're 12 years old, you lose both your parents. Did it affect
absolutely.
you? So you know that he has, over the years, he has drank some.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and that's, when you're talking to the police, you didn't want him to drink.
No, I did not.
And his dad died from drinking.
Yes.
So, you got to know Kelly pretty soon after they started dating, is that right?
Yes, sir.
You started seeing her around, and at first things were very good.
Yes.
Now, her kids, Jayla, Trayla,
And Trey.
they didn't really like to go over to the house where she was living.
No, they did not, and that's when Kelly was there quite often. The only time that the children wanted to spend the night with her is if she was at my house.
Okay. The kids, who were they living with at the time?
They always lived with their grandmother on their father's side. They had never, to my knowledge, lived anywhere else.
All right. And so when you saw the kids, you said they call you Aunt Donna.
They did.
When you saw them, it was usually when Kelly would come over and she would visit with her kids and she would visit at your house.
Yes, Jim brought them a time or two while Kelly was at work.
Okay.
He would take them to do stuff and come back home.
All right. At some point, though, you determined you didn't want Kelly around.
Yes, and that was a big problem was the children.
Because you still wanted to
I
care
still
about them.
wanted to see the children, and then I still was able to talk to them and through their grandmother Marie.
Okay. And, but you didn't want Kelly and Jim around.
No,
Together.
I told Kelly she was not welcome at my house anymore.
Okay, and why was that?
I left her to pieces, but she showed out several times when Jim didn't want to see her. He wanted to focus on his job. He had a really good but hard manual job. She would come in the driveway screaming, hollering,
And because Jim wouldn't go outside, I have elderly neighbors to my left, and the lady to my right at that time, her husband had recently passed away unexpectedly. And among many times that Kelly was squalling tires in the driveway. Once Jim was standing over in my neighbor's yard, my neighbor was on the porch, he was talking to her when Kelly came squalling in the driveway and accusing her of sleeping with Jim. Just pretty vulgar. And at that time, it was whenever she did leave, Jim threatened to call the police if she didn't, and she almost hit 2 cars when she pulled out.
And this is what you described when you told the police they had
at this
toxic.
point, I'm going to object to relevance when we're getting into cars and we're driving away and just things like that. I wanted to say.
He's gonna guide her, he has a cross.
Is this what you were talking about when you said that they had a toxic relationship?
Yes, Kelly took a lot of pills, and she would mix them, and they were just not good results.
You were aware that a couple of weeks before she died that she and Jim went up to Greensboro to visit with her family?
Yes.
And they apparently got into some type of altercation there, is that right?
They did.
And you had to pick him up?
I did.
And do you recall seeing scratches on his face?
I thought they were going to scar. Yes, his face and arms were scratched really bad.
All right. Now, specifically directing you to August 11th of 2017. Now, I know you said it's kind of, the dates and times are a little bit hazy for you, as they are with some people, but you do recall that you did make a pretty good sale during that week. Is that right?
Oh, yes, sir. I sell, buy and resell restaurant and supermarket equipment.
Okay. So you made about $3,400 that week sometime.
Yes.
And you gave him the money to deposit in your account on Thursday. You recall it was Thursday that you gave it to him?
Yes, sir.
And he didn't make it to the bank because I think he had another errand to run or something, but he didn't make it to the bank by 5. So he was planning to make that deposit on Friday morning.
He was supposed to, yes.
Okay. Never made it.
Yes, sir.
But you do recall that Friday, the 11th, that he did come back from Jack's Creek.
Yes. Oh, yes.
Okay. And to the best of your knowledge, it was after dark.
Yes, sir.
Right. And in August, it gets dark, 9:30?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So, and there's no doubt that you did see him, he took a shower, said he was going to Atlanta at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And you told Ms. Bennett that last week when you spoke with her.
Yes, sir, I did.
Now, you've seen a transcript of the statement you gave to police a few days after Kelly's body.
Actually, I have not.
Okay. Do you recall speaking with them?
Yes, I called them because I was getting death threats.
Okay. And you were looking for your money too, right?
Yes, I wanted my money out of the car.
Based on that phone call we heard, you knew that
Absolutely.
some of the money was probably left in his car. And you wrote.
I was hoping.
Right. So you weren't there you weren't calling them to give them any information about the case or talking about alibis or anything like that?
Oh, no.
Okay.
And I also wanted to know about the car because I had bought the car.
And you did tell them about the deposit and that he never made the deposit, is that right?
That's correct.
But in the recorded statement, it doesn't really appear that you said that you saw him Friday night, is that right?
I don't know, I haven't read it.
Okay. Do you recall them asking you whether you saw him on that Friday night?
I do not.
Okay. So if you didn't say that in your statement, you don't recall them ever even asking you if you saw him Friday night?
I did not.
About 2 or 3 o'clock that night, would you have been in bed asleep?
Absolutely.
Okay. Do you recall anything happening 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning at your house that night?
I remember whenever I woke up, I was upset. Jim had come in and made a mess, and my money was gone.
Okay. So, was there a portion of the money there left Friday when he left the first time?
Oh, all all goes silly.
Okay. And when you woke up the next morning, was the money gone?
Absolutely.
And was there a mess at the house?
Yes.
And there's evidence that somebody had been in your house while you were asleep?
Well, I knew it was Jim.
Right.
His nightstand get knocked in. I remembered after meeting with the DA, I was angry. He had spilled the drink off that table on the carpet. That was before I realized nobody was.
So you know that you saw him after dark on that Friday, August 11th, and you know that while you were asleep, he came in at some point and took the money and made a mess, spilled the drink.
Yes.
Okay.
Read.
Yeah.
Right?
When was it that you're saying that you gave Jen the money, $3,400?
Thursday,
For you? Thursday, okay. You gave him all of that money Thursday.
I put it on the table with a deposit slip. This is what I need you to get in the bank for.
And he took that money and did that then and had the money, or with, obviously didn't deposit, but he had the money at that time.
No, the money stayed on the table with a deposit slip.
Okay, so the money just kept sitting there, and then later you came and got it, is what you're saying?
Yes.
Now? Okay. All right, so do you recall not telling the police that at all in your interview?
I
You came
don't,
back another time, other than when you initially said you gave him the money on Thursday. You got the money.
no, I don't recall. My main conversation with the police was wanting to know where my money was, the car, and the threats I'd received.
Okay, so you don't recall telling them he's going to make the deposit for me Friday.
It was supposed to.
Gave the money Thursday.
Okay, yes.
Okay. All right, not that the money laid there and then later someone came in the middle of the night and messed up the whole house and took the money and then had it, right? Okay.
Correct.
So that was not mentioned whatsoever when you talked to law enforcement.
No one had broken in my house. I knew that.
Yeah, I'm not asking about someone breaking the house. I'm saying you didn't tell law enforcement at all that Jim came back Friday night, got the money, made a mess, things like that.
I don't recall. I haven't read the statement.
And you would agree with me that actually when you were on direct and we were first talking, I asked, well, I mean, what do you think he spent the money on? And you kind of laughed like, well, I think we know what it was because, you know, we're talking about the cheetah and drugs, right?
Right.
Cheetah, right. So he was already at the cheetah where he says he got drugs and, you know, people spend money at strip clubs before he comes back in the middle of the night on Friday, correct?
And I believe he spent my money at a hotel as well.
Okay, also, but, I mean, you're the one who sat there and just said that, you know, he had already gone and spent a lot of money. You agreed.
No, later that night, Jim came back
How do you know that?
because that's when my money was taken. And that's when
Well, where were you when that was happening?
sound asleep.
Sound asleep. So really, I guess you had no idea if someone came in your house or didn't.
Yeah, from the looks of the stained carpet, the mess, and my money being gone, only Jim knew where it was because it was supposed to be deposited.
Now, when you went to bed that night, was the money on the table
Yes, sir.
on Friday night?
It was.
Mhm. And again, this whole stained carpet mess that the money's left out there, not with the police when you first talked to them back in August of 2017.
No, probably not because that's not the reason I was talking to them.
I thought the money was the reason you were talking to them.
I wanted the money out of the car, I wanted the car, and I was concerned for my safety from the death threats I was receiving.
Right. So the money was your concern, and you did not tell them about when the last time the money would have been sitting on the counter was. Then, actually, you said.
No, it had nothing to do with it. I wanted the money that was left in the car when they repoed the car.
How is it that Jim's mother died? James Hill's mother.
Tina was,
She was strangled to death, right?
I'm sorry?
She was strangled to death, right?
She was beat to death. She had a grand mal seizure and he continued to beat on her.
Okay. So you don't know
Until he killed
anything.
her.
You've not heard. You're not aware that strangulation was involved in her death as well.
Oh, well, there's a good chance of that. But no, if her final discovery was beat to death, and then he buried her in a shallow hole behind the vet's office.
You're saying that you didn't know strangulation was a part of that, or that you did know that?
Well, beaten to death is, yeah, that's a possibility, but no, I did not know that.
You didn't know that.
I knew she had a grandma seizure and he continued to beat her.
And you'd agree that that was a fairly publicized sort of murder incident when the body was found and things like that, correct?
Yes,
All right, you're saying you didn't actually know that particular detail yourself?
that was not in the report that I recall reading.
You recall reading, okay. And Jim actually was set to start another job on, I call him Jim, you call him Jim, right? So you call him James, and he also has a nickname J-Man, correct?
I'm sorry, when he was a child, he was Jimbo.
Okay.
So I still call him Jim for sure.
He actually has a few nicknames then.
J-Man, Jim, and James.
Okay. He was actually set to start another job on Monday, that's what I was getting at, right? Before he was arrested and this murder happened.
I believe so.
And so he wasn't working a job at that time, at that weekend, actually.
I believe he did work that week because he had money when he left. Not a whole lot of money, but he had his own money when they went to Jack's Creek.
Jack's Creek, how do you know that?
Because he had to have gas.
But I mean, anyone can have gas in their car already. How do you know he had a specific amount of money or enough money to do anything with when he left that day? I'm asking, is that something you personally observed, or is that something you just assumed?
I assumed because it was in Bethlehem, he would have needed gas to go to Jack's Creek. Or near Bethlehem.
All right, but I guess since you seem unsure about the idea of whether or not he was starting a job Monday or not, and so...
No, he was, yes.
Okay.
I said he was.
Now you know that. I assumed like you weren't sure at first. I was just didn't know if you were sure when he quit his last job and what the last day was and why he started a new one Monday.
No, I can't tell you how long between. It wasn't very long, though.
Well, how long do you estimate?
Oh, maybe a week.
Are you aware that the defendant told law enforcement that that the money he had, all that cash, that
Objection,
himself?
Your Honor, she's trying to testify or put something in from a defendant's statement. She has no reason to know what the defendant told law enforcement. And so she can ask law enforcement, but this is not the witness to ask.
Rephrase.
She
Rephrase.
does speak to.
Rephrase.
You're testifying you gave the defendant that $3,400, correct? That was your
Make
money.
a deposit for me, yes.
Okay, so that is not his money, right?
No, that was not.
All right, so if he told law enforcement that, no, that was my money, and not my Aunt Donna's, that was mine, that would be a lie.
It was his responsibility, so yes.
That's not.
Well, no, that's not for me to say. I didn't say
If
it.
he told them that it was his money, that no, he didn't get it from someone else, it was
Okay.
his, that would be not true.
That's why I made the objection. She's not the person to ask that.
Counsel, he's not asking what he told. She said if he told.
That's not-
Overruled. I think it's a proper question. Ask it again.
So that would be a lie. If he indicates that that is his money. That's his, he made it to use it, that's his money, that'd be a lie.
Did he say he made that?
I'm asking you.
The reason I'm asking because depending on the context of that statement, if the money's there, then yeah, he would have said that's
Ma'am,
his money, it's
ma'am,
in his car.
The context is how she phrased it. Ask the question.
The context is, it isn't Aunt Donna's money, it's my money, I made it, I have a job, I work.
Oh, well, then that's a lie, yes.
I don't have anything for it.
Recross.
I'm sorry, I misunderstood that.
Recross.
Ms. Herndon, do you have any doubt that that money was on the table when you went to bed that night, on Friday night?
No doubt at all.
Is there any doubt that it was gone and that there were stains, indications that somebody was in your house later that night?
Absolutely.
That is true.
That is true.
And did the police ask you anything about Jim coming home Friday night?
Not that I recall.
Thank you. That's all.
Nothing further, Judge.
All right, you may step down.
Thank you.
Thank you. She released?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Please remain. Oh, bring it up. Thank you. Lunch. Thank you for your patience, ladies and gentlemen. We have witnesses as well. We'll take a lunch break. Please leave your hands on the rail or in the jury room. Take your personal items. Don't lock the doors. We'll be back. We'll start back at 2 o'clock. All right. Now I need you to leave the building. Once you come across the threshold, you become the bailiff's responsibility. So if you're going to come back early, please don't come back before, say, 1:45. Give them a chance to get a lunch in as well. All right? I'll get about an hour and 15 minutes. Okay? We want to start at 2, so you need to be here before 2. Not at 2, you need to be here before 2. All right. Thank you.